The last topic that we'll cover in Chapter 3 is that of supporting details. And supporting details are really important in our paragraphs because without them, we would be left with perhaps an introductory sentence and a topic sentence, not much information. What the purpose of details would be is to support whatever the topic sentence or the implied main idea is. There are a couple of different kinds of details. We have major details that are in the form of examples, illustrations, facts, studies, so on, and they relate directly back to the topic sentence or to the implied main idea. But there are also what we call minor details, and these minor details reply to the major details. So they help to flesh out all of the nuances that the major details lay out there. Don't be misled by the term minor, because if you think about it, many of the tests that you take actually focus on minor details. And so they're a very important piece in our reading. Finally, we also have what are called category words. Category words are kind of like containers that hold a number of items. So anytime in a sentence or in a paragraph you hear the 5 leading causes of tornadoes or the major events leading up to, then you're talking about a category word. And you know that the rest of that paragraph, if you're a careful reader, you're going to find out what those events or parts or components were that were mentioned in that lead-off sentence. So category words always point you back toward the major details, and that's what really helps to increase your comprehension. So some of the background information to support the idea of details. The more specific sentences that provide examples, reasons, and other evidence that makes the main idea clear and convincing are indeed those details. They answer the questions that are raised by the topic sentence. They're dependent upon the main idea expressed in the topic sentence or in an implied main idea paragraph. Supporting details also are the basis for main ideas that are implied then or suggested by the author but not directly stated. And finally, some of the details, as we've already said, can be major, relating directly back to that main idea or topic sentence, or they could be minor details which refer back to the major details. So let's take a look at a sample paragraph and see how this works. Size isn't everything in the world of diamonds. There are 5 ways to measure the true value of a diamond. Well, right there we have one of those category words. Can you pick it out? It's the word ways. So we know that as we read on in this paragraph, we should anticipate learning the 5 ways that we can measure the true value of a diamond. The next sentence reads, the carat refers to a diamond's weight. Well, right there we have the first way that you can measure the true value of a diamond. It's by carat. The next sentence, heavier diamonds generally are larger than lighter diamonds. The heavier a diamond is, the more it costs. Those 2 would be minor details because they go back to the major detail and they explain what a carat is. And so that sets up a pattern. Sentence 6, the clarity refers to the absence of flaws within a diamond. There's our second major detail. Imperfections such as clouds, feathers make a diamond look murky and less sparkly. Again, a minor detail. The greater the diamond's clarity, the more it can be sold for. And that's a second minor detail to support, the information that we're getting on clarity. A flawless diamond can be sold for much more than one with visible inclusions. The color, here we go again. And as you can see, it's followed by, again, that major detail is followed by minor details to support it. We go down to sentence 14, and we see that we're talking about cut of diamond, and with minor details supporting that. And then the last 5th item is cut grade in sentence 16. So if we would take a picture of this paragraph, it would look something like this. We have an introductory sentence with sizes and everything in the world of diamonds, followed by the topic sentence. And then all the items in blue would be your 5 major details, followed by all the minor details that help to explain those major details. Being able to distinguish major and minor details is what really leads to true comprehension in reading. Let's try another paragraph. As I read this one, would you do this? Try to figure out what the topic sentence is for this paragraph. What questions about the topic sentence do the supporting details answer? And then while you're at it, do you happen to see a transitional sentence anywhere? Although various cultures throughout history have adorned themselves with body piercings, Americans never seemed especially interested in piercing their body parts. Times have changed, however. Today, many Americans are piercing any number of different body parts. Men and women, for instance, now commonly pierce their ears once or even multiple times. Wearing jewelry on pierced areas of the face, including the nose, the eyebrow, the lip, and the tongue, also became very fashionable among the young in the 1990s, although the trend has declined over time. With clothing styles that feature a bare midriff, many young women are now also likely to pierce their navels. Some of the bravest trendsetters, male and female alike, have even gone so far as to pierce their nipples. So what do we have going on here? A topic sentence? Where do you think the topic sentence is in this sentence? If you guessed 3, you're absolutely right. Today, many Americans are piercing any number of different body parts. So then the question follows, what do the supporting details answer? How would you categorize those details? Well, if you're thinking that the details answer where are Americans piercing their body, on what parts, you're absolutely right. A transitional sentence occurred in sentence number 2. Times have changed, however. Remember, the paragraph started talking about, Americans never seemed especially interested in piercing, and then 2 changes the direction of that paragraph by saying, times have changed, however, and so then the rest of the paragraph continues off in a different direction, actually explaining where piercings are occurring on Americans. Let's take a look at this paragraph. What I'd like you to do is to start thinking about how many minor details the author provides in the discussion of the topic. And would you be able to name some of these minor details if asked to do so on a test? Think of birds and you think of delicate creatures that soar effortlessly into the air, revealing a speed and grace that even the most advanced airplane can never achieve. Speed and grace, however, were not the defining characteristics of early birds. Although the earliest known bird, the pigeon-sized Archaeopteryx, had feathers, its skeleton was essentially that of a small dinosaur. It had digits and claws on its forelimbs, teeth on its jaws, and many bones in its wings and vertebral column. How could flight evolve in such an unbird-like animal? The theory is that Archaeopteryx didn't fly. Like the dinosaur, it pursued its prey using its feathered wings like fly swatters. Larger wings would have given it extra lift when it jumped on its prey. Gradually, over time, the evolutionary modifications could have led to changes in the wing bones and muscles so that these clumsy creatures became capable of real flight. So if you were picking out details that would allow you to identify an Archaeopteryx, what would it be? Well, already, when we start in sentence 3, we see that it has feathers, it's got a skeleton like a dinosaur, it's got digits and claws, it's got a lot of bones. So we have a lot of information that would help us to sort of visualize what an Archaeopteryx might look like. We might also, typically on a test, be asked to identify characteristics that distinguish the Archaeopteryx. So again, you can see that while minor details are called minor, they're not so minor. They're really a very important part of our paragraph and of what we're supposed to comprehend. Drop dead, you creep. is hardly a thing something would say to someone when you're trying to resolve a disagreement, especially in a dating relationship. But it may be an important clue as to whether such a couple should marry. Many couples who communicate poorly before marriage are likely to communicate the same way after marriage, and the result can be disastrous for future marital happiness. Sentence 3 provides us with the topic sentence for this paragraph. The idea that poor communication before marriage can result in unhappy marriages. The paragraph then goes on to give us some major details in support. Researchers have found how well a couple communicates before marriage can be an important predictor for later marital satisfaction. In one study, researchers found those premarital couples who responded more to each other's positive communication than to each other's negative communications were more satisfied 4 years after marriage than those who focused mainly on negative messages. And then the paragraph wraps up in, if communication is poor before marriage, it's not likely to significantly improve after marriage. So the remaining sentences in that paragraph give support to the topic sentence that includes the idea that couples who don't communicate well before marriage probably won't afterward either. In this particular example, what I'd like you to do is to think of those blanks as following the preceding sentence. And I'd like you to be able to identify whether those blanks are major details or minor details. Most people who have survived near-fatal automobile accidents have a lot in common when it comes to being either drivers or passengers. They agonize about driving even a mile or two over the speed limit and flatly refuse to go any faster than the law allows. If they themselves are not at the wheel, their terror increases. They tend to compulsively hit the imaginary brake under their foot whenever the actual driver seems to be tailgating the car ahead. They're probably among the most annoying passengers on earth, prone to offering advice about how to take a curve or where to stop for a light. Now, throughout the examples that we've seen so far, most often we see a pattern where the major detail is closely followed by the minor detail. But this paragraph, if you've labeled those sentences as major or minor, let me pause while you do so. In this paragraph, we have sentence 2 and 3 providing major details, and then minor details follow in the last two sentences. That's not the typical pattern, but it is a pattern that can exist in paragraphs, and so you have to be careful not to get lulled into a sense of security in thinking that a minor detail is always going to follow closely to the major detail. Luckily for us, in most textbooks, that is the case, which makes reading a whole lot easier. Now, you'll need this information in order to be able to answer the questions that follow in the next activity.